Ottawa residents are frustrated and they are angry, and they have every right to be. Their lives continue to be severely impacted by unlawful and unsafe events on the city streets, in the downtown core, and in the surrounding neighborhoods. This is unacceptable. This morning, we have begun implementing a new surge and contain strategy in our downtown core, based on lessons learned over the last operating cycle of the demonstrations and new intelligence gathered literally in the last 24 hours. There are three parts to this new strategy. Number one, we're deploying a surge of police officers in the downtown and the immediate neighborhoods. There will be approximately 150 additional officers dedicated to only patrolling and addressing unlawful, threatening conduct in the most impacted neighborhoods, specifically Centertown, Lower Town, and the Byward Market. This surge will include working with our city and NCR official partners to prevent unlawful and unsafe use of public spaces by demonstrators. These officers and our partners will be focused on illegal activity associated with the demonstrators. This surge will deliver a clear message to the demonstrators: the lawlessness must end. The focus of these officers will be on acts of mischief, hate, harassment, intimidation, and other threatening behaviors. The second part of the strategy will be an expansion of the hardening of the perimeter in the demonstration red zone, the immediate area of Wellington Street in front of the Parliament buildings. We will be further isolating and containing the demonstration in that red zone. The Ottawa Police Service, the City of Ottawa, and our partners will be utilizing concrete barriers, heavy equipment barricades to create no-access roadways throughout the downtown core. This includes considerations around the closing of bridges, highway off-ramps, and other roadways. Incoming protester vehicles today and throughout the weekend will be directed to designated parking zones outside of the downtown core. Illegal parking by demonstrators will result in bylaw enforcement, removal, and impound if necessary. Again, interprovincial bridges, highway off-ramps, and roads will be closed as needed as we manage and monitor the influx of vehicles and the egress of vehicles from the core. The third part of the strategy: enhanced intelligence and investigation operations. We now have secured fully national, provincial, and local intelligence agencies. We have increased ability to identify and target protesters and supporters of protesters who are funding and enabling unlawful and harmful activity by the protesters themselves. Investigative evidence gathering teams are collecting financial, digital, vehicle registration, driver identification, insurance status, and other related evidence that will be used in prosecutions. Every unlawful act, including traffic and insurance violations, will be fully pursued, regardless of the origin, at any time in the future. The primary focus of each of these measures will be on the unlawful behavior connected to the ongoing demonstrations. This includes parallel and counter demonstrations. We strongly urge all demonstrators and those engaging with the demonstrators to act lawfully, peacefully, and respectfully. The hatred, the violence, the illegal acts that Ottawa residents and businesses have endured over the last week is unacceptable in any circumstance. The Ottawa Police Service and the City of Ottawa are bringing significantly greater resources to restore order, hold offenders to account, and protect our neighbourhoods. The current demonstration in the Parliamentary Precinct Red Zone remains unresolved despite significant successes in reducing the number of trucks and demonstrators while preventing riots, injuries, or deaths. We take no solace in these operational successes to date. Our goal is to end the demonstration. The demonstrators in the red zone area remain highly organized, well-funded, extremely committed to resisting all attempts to end the demonstration safely. This remains, as it was from the beginning, an increasingly volatile and increasingly dangerous demonstration. The Ottawa Police Service continues to work with the national security agencies, the RCMP, the OPP, and other municipal police agencies. Over the last 48 hours, we've also been able to engage all three levels of government to effect a safe, timely, and lawful end to this unlawful and unacceptably dangerous demonstration. Public safety remains paramount, as does our commitment to work with all levels of government and all parts of civil society to bring this demonstration to an end. In closing, I want to reiterate what Ottawa residents have endured, what Ottawa businesses have endured, what our own service members and our partners have endured over the last week is unacceptable. And we have learned from our experience. We have gathered new evidence. We have secured new allies, and we're implementing new measures to bring this demonstration to an end. Thank you very much. I'd be pleased to take any questions you may have at this time.
Good morning, Chief. Marika Walsh with the Globe and Mail. I'd like to go broad first and talk about trust. Residents in Ottawa feel that the police have broken the trust. They see the police helping protesters, direct them to where they should be bringing their fuel cans of jerry cans, and they see propane tanks stockpiled near the canal, whereas the police in the past and enforcement in the past has meant that things like a lemonade stand couldn't continue. So how do you speak to residents? How do you explain and how do you ensure that trust is rebuilt now when they think that you have abandoned them?
Thank you very much for your question. And again, I take great empathy with those that have endured unacceptable violations of their ability to live and raise their families and conduct their businesses in this city, in their neighborhoods, particularly during this time, almost 2 full years into a global pandemic, with everything that everybody has suffered and endured. I have met with those business owners, I have met with the residents, I've patrolled in these streets, and I can see plainly and understand clearly the depth of frustration that they have in the police service and in society as a whole to what they find here happening today. We are doing everything we possibly can to keep them safe. We are doing more and more each day as we learn and understand the nature of this demonstration, how it is supported, funded, sustained, and committed to continuing on despite best efforts by policing partners here and across the country. We're absolutely committed to bringing this demonstration to an end. We've implemented major new efforts, 150 new officers based on the intelligence will be applied in those 3 neighborhoods most impacted, where that trust has been most impacted. 24 hours a day over the next 4 days coming through this weekend, those officers will be focused on enforcement, bringing to order and bringing to justice those who've committed disorder and unlawful acts, to support those residents and support those businesses and rebuild that shaken trust. But it will take more than the efforts of our officers to bring this demonstration to an end. And we have gathered allies and supports from all 3 levels of policing and public safety and all 3 levels of government. We are implementing new measures, and we are encouraged by the new measures that others in our ally group are considering and implementing right now as well.
And can I stick to one question? Okay, thank you. For now.
Okay. Chief Slowly, Stéphane Leclerc, Radio-Canada. Just wondering, does that mean, because you talk about enforcing bylaw, towing and impounding vehicles, what about the trucks on Wellington? Does that mean that you're going to start today removing trucks from that road and area?
Yeah, thank you very much for your question, sir. We have been enforcing the bylaws, the Provincial Offences Act, the Criminal Code. We've been reducing the number of trucks in the entire city of Ottawa, and particularly in the downtown core, including in the red zone of Wellington. The number of protesters have dropped off significantly. The number of trucks in the red zone and the surrounding neighborhoods have dropped off significantly. People have been arrested and charged. Offences have been dealt with through bylaw and provincial statutes. Evidence is being gathered. Investigations are ongoing, including the criminal investigation to the desecration of the cenotaph. That has been going on since the beginning of this demonstration and will continue on. Certainly the criminal code investigations will continue on in perpetuity. There is no statute of limitations on criminal investigations until we bring those who committed those criminal acts to justice. In regards to a timeline for when we'll remove all aspects of this demonstration, including the trucks in the red zone, I do not have a timeline now, but as I've stated before, every option is on the table. Thank you for your question, sir.
Good morning, Chief. Natalie Van Roy from CTV Ottawa. Vulnerable people feel abandoned and harassed in their own city. How did you let the protesters gain so much control?
Thank you very much for your question. I've had the opportunity in my patrols over the last week to speak with some of those vulnerable people. I can tell you it's heartbreaking. In fact, as I was parked right out front of this police station on a board briefing with my board chair in regards to where we were in the early part of the week, 2 members who live in the YMCA just on the other side of this building came by in their wheelchairs, both of them elderly, both of them clearly struggling with a range of disabilities, doing their own shopping in sub-zero temperatures. They stopped to speak with me. They expressed their frustration and their fear. They also expressed their understanding for the incredibly difficult job that we're doing and for the work that we've done to support them thus far. I understand there is a wide range of opinions around the efficacy of our efforts to date, but we've done absolutely the best we can to keep this city safe, to keep residents like that safe, the most marginalized, often the most racialized communities, as safe as we can. We need to do better. We're committed to doing better. We now have more intelligence and allies to do better, and we're implementing more and better plans. 150 officers in these neighborhoods to support people like those 2 people I spoke about. 150 officers 24/7 over the next 4 days. No matter how many trucks come into this town, those officers will remain dedicated to keeping those vulnerable members as safe as they can be and addressing unlawful and unacceptable behavior in their neighborhoods until the end of these demonstrations. That is my commitment here today. We will step up our intelligence and investigation efforts. We will hold to account not just the demonstrators, but those that fund and enable the demonstrators in any way. And we will have a hardened plan for the weekend's demonstrations, including concrete barriers, expanding that red zone, and locking down bridges, highways, and major thoroughfares to reduce the ability of vehicles and trucks to come in, and when they come in, to target them, ticket them, and remove them as best we can. Thank you very much for your question.
Chief Mackenzie Gray with CTV National News. You've spoken previously about how you think some of the protesters have guns. Is the Ottawa Police not willing to move into the protesters because you think if you do, things will turn violent?
Thank you very much for your question. To be clear, we have already made arrests involving individuals who were intending to and were bringing firearms to the nation's capital to be involved directly or indirectly in the protests. Through our partners across the country, we were able to identify one individual and interdict him before he was able to get close to the city. A firearm was seized, charges were laid, and he will face full prosecution, including potential jail time. That remains for anybody in this city or in this country or in any other country that intends to bring a firearm to a lawful protest, to engage in unlawful activity in any way. Do not bring weapons. Do not bring firearms. Do not come here to cause harm. Do not come here to break the law. You will be held to account.